Audio.
Hey, let's assume you have a website or a web page which works fine for your larger screens, but it breaks when your screen size is small. Let's say for your tablet, your small screen mobile phones, your layout breaks. But as soon as we change the units of CSS, that is from pixels, we use percentage, then the same layout works fine for your smaller screens as well. So why this different behavior? So in this video, let's talk about the different units of CSS in detail. And also, at the end of this video, we will discuss some of the interview questions of CSS based on CSS units. So let's start the video. So let's talk about the first CSS unit, that is your pixel. So your pixel is known as the absolute unit. So this pixel unit is fixed unit and it does not adapt to different screen size. So for this, let's have two divs. One would be your parent div, the class as container, and also we will have a child div with a class as, let's say, box, and let's have a width of 900 pixels for the parent container and for the child container 800 pixels along with some background color. So for this screen size, no issues. So let's go to inspect and check for different screen size. See, as the screen size is getting smaller, your layout is breaking. It is overflowing. So as your pixel is a fixed unit, whereas on the other hand, we have a relative unit as well, like your percentage, EM, and your rem. So these are relative units. These adapt to different screen sizes. So let's see the first one, that is your percentage. So your percentage is based on your parent's width. So let's assume the screen size is 1000 pixel. So this is your screen, whole screen, and its size is 1000 pixels. And let's give a width of 90% to the parent container and 80% to the child container. So now your parent container is having 90%. That would be 90% of total width. That will be 900 pixels. And if your child is having 80%, that would be 80% of the parent width. Or let's say, instead of 80, to clear things up more, let's use 50%. So it would be 50% of your parent's width, not the screen width. So your parent width is, so it will be 450 pixels. So here, as per our assumption, the screen size is 1000 pixels and the parent width is 90%. So it was 900 pixels and the child is having 50%. It would be 50% of this 900 pixels which the parent have. So eventually it would be 450 pixels, only half of this. So let's check it once. And the best part is that it is a relative unit. So it will adapt different screen sizes. If the screen size becomes 500 pixels, then the parent width would be 90% of that 500. That would be 450 pixels. And again, similarly, the child will be having 50% of this width. Now see the difference. Both of them adapting the different screen size. For your mobile screen, tablet as well. And the same is for this VH and VW. So these are your viewport height and viewport width. And viewport is nothing but simply your screen. It is also a relative unit. The difference between this percentage and this viewport is that this does not depend on the parent width. Instead, these depend on the screen directly. If I set the width as 70 viewport width, that is VW, and this as 50 viewport width, then it would be, you can remember this as 1 viewport height is equal to 1 percentage of screen height, and 1 viewport width as 1 percentage of screen width. And let's assume your screen size is 500 pixel width and 800 pixels height. So this time, 1 viewport width would be equal to 5 pixels and 1 viewport height would be equal to 8 pixels. So as I told you, 1 viewport height equal to 1 percentage of screen height. So your height is 800 pixels. So if your screen size is this 800 pixel height, then 1 viewport height would be 8 pixels. That will be eventually 800 pixels. And same applies for this as well. And this is also responsive. It also adapts to different screen size, just as the percentage, as because these are relative units, not like the absolute unit, that is pixel, which is fixed. See. So if you use relative units like this, then your web page or maybe layout will be responsive, will not break at all for smaller screens. Now let's see this EM and REM. So these are used for your font sizes. And again, this EM is based on the parent's font size. And this REM is based on the root element's font size. That is your HTML. I hope you know this, that your HTML is your root element. So let's see them with examples. Let's say again we have a div. Let's say class name as font container and with some dummy text. So let's say lorem 50. And let's have a p tag inside this div. So this is your parent div and this is the child. And let's say it's having a class name as para, and let's set the font of this parent, that is div. Let's say font size 20 pixels. Well and good, no issues. Both of them having the font size as 20 pixels. Now if I set the font as of this child, that is paragraph, to 1 em, see, nothing will happen. But as soon as I set this to 2 em, see the difference. The font size of this child, the paragraph, got increased. So how this works? This em, if your parent font size is, so this em simply multiplies with this, the parent font size. If the child has 1 em, it will be 20 into 1. And for 2 em, again 20 into 2. So this em gets multiplied into this font size. If I had 3 em, see, its size will be 60. See, 60 pixels. And it also works the same way, rem. The difference is it works for the root element. Let's say we have the root element with the font size as, let's say, 30 pixels. So now all of the text that you see on the screen is 30 pixels. If again I set the paragraph as 1 rem, nothing will change. See, the paragraph is also 30 pixels. Again, if I set this to 2 rem, this 2 will get multiplied to this 30. So eventually this paragraph will be 60 pixels. See. So this way your em and rem works. So let's move on to some interview questions for this. So let's say here we have two containers again. One is your parent container and the other is your child. So the container, that is the parent container, is having the width as 100% and the child container's width is 50%. So now, so the question says, what would be the width of the child element? Assuming the screen width is 800 pixels. So how will you calculate the child width? So your screen size is 800 pixels and parent width 100%. It would be 800 pixels and child is 50%. So it would be 50% of your parent. If your parent is 800 pixels, then the child will be 400 pixels. Now let's say if the interviewer further asks you, let's say if you reduce the screen size and he tells you that Now your screen size is 400 pixels. Then the width of the child. So you all calculate this and comment me the correct answer for this. I'm leaving this for you. Now let's suppose we have some layout. Let's say for case 1 we have the parent width as 80% and the child as 100%. And we also have a case 2 where the parent is having width as 80%, but this time the child is having the width as 100 VW. So now tell me, what will be the difference between these two? Where in this case, for case 1, the child is having 100% of the parent's width, which would be safe, responsive as well. But for case 2, the child is having 100 VW, that is 100 viewport width. So as I told you, one viewport width is equal to 1% of the screen width. So for this case, child is having 100% of screen, not parent. So it will overflow. Let's do it practically. So for case 1, let's say screen size is 500 pixels and the parent is having 80% of it. So it will be 400 pixels. So this is the width of the parent and the child is having 100% of it. That is 100% of parent's width. So this will be the child width. No issues at all. But for this case, let's say again, screen size 500 pixels and parent width 80%. So again 400 pixels. But this time, the child is having 100 VW. And as you know, this VW, viewport width, that depends on the screen size, not the parent width. So this time, the child will be having 100 VW of 500 pixels. It would be. So eventually, so now the parent is having 400 pixels while the child is having 500 pixels, which will cause it to overflow. See, so yes, this was one of the important topics of CSS, that is CSS units. So I hope you understood about this in a much better way. So see you all in the next one. Till then, take care.